you grow up with a NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello. This is not your regularly scheduled program. As we were getting ready to record, Birdman informed me that he really wasn't feeling so well today. And he's like, oh, I'll power through it. And I said, dude, maybe I'll do the show solo. And then after a bit of a short discussion, we said, you know what, how about we do a TurdOrTreasure instead? Because we've had some reviews that we wanted to fit in that we're going to have to come out at the end of the week. But this end of the week is a holiday. We're going into Easter weekend. So we went, no, how about we just do a bit of a TurdOrTreasure here. We'll get all the reviews out. We'll get maybe a little bit of a news intro, and that's sort of it. And I'm going to do it solo. Plan is for us to actually record on Easter Sunday because my family, as far as I know right now, isn't doing anything major. I'll be visiting my mom and my grandmother for a bit of a day trip on the Saturday. Don't think I'm doing anything with the rest of the extended family. My dad might be visiting some other family in the Toronto area, but I probably won't be going to that. And Birdman and his bird coop, they're going to be doing other stuff that doesn't pertain to that day. So we might record a regular Eastery type show then, and we'll get back to our regular programming from then on. As for what I've been up to this week, I'll take one of the stories that we were going to have. It's been a bit of a short, crappy news week, even when it comes to the the weird news wasn't a whole lot of quality stuff. So I'm actually kind of glad we're doing it this way. But the one story that popped up, it was kind of a coincidence because it affected me directly. And that is some hinky stuff that's happening with the PlayStation Store and PlayStation Network and PS3. So when everything was announced that the PS Plus was happening, the changes that were happening that are coming in the summertime, with PlayStation 3 still being streamed, I had some credit at a store, a used video store that I go to, and I went, you know what? I'll just get a PS3. I sold Birdman my old PS3 Super Slim when he wanted to get a system to play all his old fighters on, some of his old games that were locked to that system. And that was about a year and a half ago. And that was a system that I had for Super Slim, 5, 6, 7 years probably. Maybe even longer. I'm not sure. And that was already set up. So the thing, all I had to do there was basically log in with a new user, his user, and then download some of his games. And I left some of my other games on there too. And just because it's an old account, I don't care. And it was a bit of a hassle when I did it, but it's even more of a hassle now because I got a Slim, not a Super Slim. I was able to get one from the store for like $70. And because it was store credit, it came out, it was less than $90 for everything, including shipping to my home. So I get the system. I purchase for like $60, almost the cost of the system. I get a 512 gig solid state drive. I could have gotten an even cheaper one, but I went with that. It's obviously not an expensive drive, but I went with that because it's the fastest drive that it could take. Now, I believe they're stuck with SATA. It's either SATA 1 or SATA 2. I don't know. It's not SATA 3 because I don't even think the PS3, I think the PS4 Pro had it, but the PS3 is like SATA generation 1 probably. So you're limited to a few hundred megs per second data read, even though the drive can do 500 and something. But I picked a drive that had a DRAM chip, and what that means is part of the drive is faster. It has a chip inside to manage efficiency for storage management, longevity of the drive, yada yada yada. Those are what people recommend if you're going to put a SATA drive in, or sorry, an SSD SATA drive into a PS4 or PS4 Pro. That's what people suggested. So 512 gigs is fine because you can't really go much higher. 900 gig drive won't even properly work in the PS3. It'll actually give you errors. So I was like, okay, got that. Popped the drive in, got the controller. Actually, bought a new battery for the DualShock controller. Took that apart. It was a pain to get in and get the screws out because it was an old, controller. The controller probably didn't even pair originally with that Super Slim. It was probably from, the original, that when they launched, not the launch, but like the year later when they got the DualShock 3s. But I got the screws out, replaced the old battery with the new battery that has 3 times the battery life, which, I purposely didn't screw it in too tight so that it wouldn't cause any explosions or problems. But it was a bit of an ordeal because I wasn't sure what the polarity, if I was plugging it in the right way, if the wires are wired right, but it is. And I should get up to 90 hours of battery life on a single charge, which is awesome. It means it's the last time I probably ever have to buy a DualShock 3 controller, and it's an official one, and there's no dead zones, and the sticks weren't worn out. It's actually pretty good. So I've got that, put the drive in. Then I encounter my first issue, which is, oh yeah, I've got to download the system software. It doesn't read USB 3 drives very well, even thumbstick drives. And I'm like, oh man, I don't have any USB 2 thumbsticks anymore. I don't have any USB 2 drives. I don't have any USB 2 cables. All of my extension cables, all of my USB charging cable, everything's USB 3 or C. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? I have a USB 3.0 card reader from Ugreen, and I pop in an old 2 gigabyte Kodak SD card that must have been from an old camera that we had from like 20 years ago. And I went, oh, wait, maybe this will read. So I copied, after having it not read the other drives I had, it read from that as if it was a USB thumb drive. And I was able to install the system software onto the hard drive, boot in, and then I go to sign in, and I try to connect into the PSN account. Keeps telling me that my password is wrong. So I actually changed my password on my computer, and it still tells me it's wrong. And then I find out what they're not telling you is they removed support last year or a few years ago, actually. I didn't realize this, that when you're signing into a system for the first time, to activate it onto your account, you have to go to Sony's website, go into your security settings, go down to a spot that says register device. Then it creates a random like key generated code that you would sort of get when you do a like a 2-factor authentication code that would be sent to your phone. But because the PS3 doesn't support that anymore, you have to go there. It generates a code. You put that there in place of your password, and then you activate it. But then you find out you actually have to have entered your password once beforehand and had it fail. Then you put that code in. Then from then on, you use your actual password. There's no indication that this is happening. There's no documentation. This is just what people figured out on their own. And then once you're in, you go to download your games, and you find that the store crashes every 2 or 3 minutes, every few games that you've passed through in navigating. It'll crash and either close the app or it reboots your whole system. And this is not a me problem. This is a whole PS3 problem. So anybody complaining about PS3 hasn't really been using it, I don't think. To know it hasn't really been a good experience. But I wanted to get all of my games I wanted to get every game that I owned that was a PS3 exclusive that has not been ported to another platform, or I don't foresee having a port right away, or if it does, whatever. Things that I own that were already on there that were PS3 exclusive, especially first party titles, as well as my PS1 and PS2 classics that I had already paid for. I didn't want to buy any new ones of them because, I've got a PS1 mini that I've modded so I can put on my own games. I can rip my discs and then put them on there and play it that way in a sort of gray market roundabout way. I own the game. I own the physical game. I own the mini. So I consider that my ability to play it. And then when it comes to PS2, PS2's in more of a limbo state too, where it's like, I might consider buying some of the PS2 games, but I don't know what's necessarily going to be on the PlayStation Network in the PS Plus new tiers. So I just wanted to get the games that I already own, which I only really own one PS2 classic. I only ever bought one there. I have more on the PS4 that were the individual ones they upgraded with the trophies, but I have Persona 3 FES edition, Festival edition, which I've never played, but I bought it before I got rid of my system originally, so I wanted to get that on there. And then PS3 titles, like I found out that a lot of them only are disc only, so they don't even have the ability to download them. So if I want to play Resistance, I gotta either do the streaming thing, which is I don't want to do. That's why I'm doing this physical thing. And I have a good network connection for streaming. I tried streaming Eternal Sonata, and the quality looked like crap. It looked worse than it did when I played Eternal Sonata initially. So it's like, no, it's not up to snuff. And maybe they're going to upgrade it and do something later when it relaunches, but we'll see. But then I look and like Eternal Sonata is like $50-$60. I'm not going to pay that. But I will probably pick up Resistance 1, 2, and 3 because they're $3.99 each used at my used video game store. So I'll probably pick some of those up. But ones that I installed were Infamous 1 and 2, which I believe I got as part of that Sony account hacking thing where everybody got hacked and they had to apologize and give us free games. I've got those installed on there. I've got Metal Gear Solid 4 installed. That's a 27 gig install. I think it's the largest game that I've seen on the platform. I've got, and that still looks great, by the way, when you boot it up. The graphics look better than Final Fantasy Origin. And that's a 14-year-old game. And I also installed Little Big Planet 1 and 2. I think it was like a karting game. Twisted Metal, the one that's like the last one they released that's only been on that platform. Tales of Symphonia 1 and 2, Tales Zillia 1 and 2. What else did I own on there? Mutant Soul Z, which is a terrible game, but hey, it's stuck on there, so I had to get it on there. And a few others. It's a good handful. Detuned and Lingering Shadows. Some of the tech demo-y unique kind of games. I wanted to get all of them on there because they're not getting ported anywhere else. And then I did the unthinkable. I had a gift card that I wanted to burn through that I'd been holding on to for the PlayStation Network that I was going to use maybe for Forspoken or something, but that's been pushed to like October. So I'll just add it to my account because that's the only way you can purchase games. You can't use PayPal. You can't use anything. It only works with whatever's on your funds that are already there that you have to activate on either a PlayStation 4 or 5 or on a PC. And I used it. I spent like $80 to get 7 or 8 games that I've got every single Ratchet and Clank that was PS3 exclusive that were made for the PS3. And I'm not talking like the trilogies or anything. And in getting a bunch of them, it gave me one of, I think it was Ratchet Deadlocked, which was a PS2 game. It just gave me that. I didn't give me an indication that I was going to have it. It just added it to my cart for $0 once I added all the other ones. Added those, as well as Killzone HD, which is the HD remaster of the original Killzone on PS2, which is a native PS3 app, which you cannot buy any other way. It was a digital code download in the box for the Killzone trilogy, which just had Killzone 2 and 3, which I can get individually, separate. You just can't find the codes anymore. So I got that. And the other one, MotorStorm Apocalypse. I think it's the last MotorStorm because the first couple were not available as a digital download. So I've got basically a handful of everything I want. I still want to get like Genji and a couple other ones that are exclusive separately. I'll get those for $3 or $4 when I find them at local stores, bargain bins or whatever. But it kept crashing, and then I finally got it to work. They download. They take forever. I have a gigabit connection. I know that it's 100 meg service only on the NIC card that's built into the PS3, but it is hella slow. Like we're talking 5 gigs taking like 28 minutes to download. To give you an idea, I can download 5 gigs in about 10 seconds, 20 seconds on my PS5 because of how fast my internet connection is. This was horrendously slow. It took 2.5 days to download and install the games on the SSD, which is way faster than it would have been on the stock drive that was like 12 years old at this point. So there's that. Then you get error codes when you download too many games where it says it's disconnected from the network and you can't connect. And then we get to the story here that popped up on Kotaku right as I installed the games, and I go to check to see what versions of each of them there are, if there's any updates. And I noticed some of them have dates that are expiring, saying that you can play the game until 1969. Right as Kotaku's ad was blowing up, that everybody else started seeing it. So the day I set up my new old system is the day that is like D-Day, where all these games stop working. Now, it's quite obvious that it's a glitch that they're going to have to fix, because they cannot remove your ability to play a game you've purchased. You can, the license agreement is about, how long they can have it in there. They can't do like this gaming Armageddon and turn everybody off without letting them know, especially somebody like myself who just purchased $80 worth of games. So if some of these games, if I purchase them and they're not going to be playable the day I purchase them, they're going to owe me the money back, and I'm going to demand that I have the game to play. So like there's going to be resolution to this, but apparently people thought it was like Square Enix doing it with Chrono Cross. It's not just the PS1 classics and PS2 games. There are other games. There are games that I purchased on here that I purchased years ago, but like we're talking like 5-10 years ago, and then I look and it tells me it was purchased in February of this year, which is impossible because I hadn't logged into into my PS3 account in like almost 2 years. And then these are games that I had purchased years ago that then say, hey, it was purchased in February of this year, and you have the use of them until February of next year. I was like, no, I purchased a full game 10 years ago. You can't tell me I now have a year of use out of it, unless they're going to shut off the entire system, which we'll see. But regardless, I'm going to get my money's worth out of it now. Interestingly enough, I don't think they can do it with disc-based games. I don't think once you have a disc in there, it can ever fail. Unlike the more modern ones where they can have a date built in with the online component. But still, I was able to get updates for all the games, and I was able to launch some of them. I haven't tested all the ones that have the 1969, but one of them, I forget which one it was, did launch and play, even though it said 1969. There's some confusing stuff. There's probably going to be a database update that it'll do a check with your system, and then you'll be able to fix all that. But we're going to see. But obviously, going into this week, as we go into a week that's going to have Easter at the end, I think Sony's going to have to address it. But that's sort of my long roundabout story of anybody complaining about them shutting down the PS3 hasn't probably really been playing on the PS3 in years, because it is such an ordeal. Once the game's launched, they play fine, and they play probably better, especially if you have an SSD, than they ever have. But just navigating and getting the system to work and get games on there, it's such a hassle that like they're clearly not like, and I understand the preservationist aspect, but I don't know how people have been playing on the PS3 in the last 5 years and not had a horrendous experience. I am, interested in seeing where this goes. I think they're going to fix the store, but who knows? And I'm just going to have some fun trying to play some games that, I hadn't either had a chance to play or haven't, always wanted to, but they never got ported. Like I would have played all the Ratchet games if the Ratchet games had all been ported to PS4 and PS5, but they hadn't been. And I'm not going to play those. I'm not going to play action games through streaming. Like Eternal Sonata was okay, a little bit, like the graphics weren't that great, and it's an action RPG, but like a turn-based RPG or a strategy game, sure, you can totally play those games via streaming. It works perfectly fine. Not an action game or a platformer or a shooter. It's not going to work that way. It's just going to look like crap, or you're going to have input latency problems, because the Google Stadia has the best latency out of all of them. And I had no problems with it, but even then I was like, shooters are not going to work on here. Like Destiny just didn't feel right, but other games did. So, and we're currently using old tech that's based on the cell processor PS3 stuff for the PS3 streaming, and it's probably going to be similar when they move onto the PS5 based Blade servers that they're using for PS3 streaming when it comes to the PS Plus. We'll see how it goes in the summertime, and then that way I'll be able to compare. This is sort of like a long project where I want to compare my local PS3 play to what I saw on PS Now, because I have a month of PS Now that I paid for just to see what the service is right now before everything launches in the summer, and then I can check out what the service is going to be like in the summertime. So that's it. That's my roundabout way of getting to it. As far as what we have reviews in this show, we have from Birdman, he has a look at the new Power Rangers RPG. That's the tabletop game that we'll be playing a little later on this year. He also has a review of the House of the Dead remake. I have reviews of a couple board games that are coming out because it's Easter's coming up, and there's a company that said, "Hey, would you like to check out some board games that we might that are new from us that we'd like to suggest for family game nights when people get together for like the weekend and Easter and all that?" And I went, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll check it out." I've also got reviews of the new MLB game. I've also got a review of a Taito collection that's available on the Nintendo Switch. So, without further ado, we'll get into it. We'll sort of alternate between us, and I'll come back at the end to let you know what's up programming-wise for the rest of the week.
Basically, using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
About a week or so back, I was contacted by Asmodee Games Canada. That's actually a big distributor of board games and family games. And they had said, hey, we're doing sort of a push to get people back to doing family game nights. And maybe with Easter coming up, this being the first Easter in a couple of years that most people are viewing as more normal, even though, obviously there's still lingering issues with the pandemic, but people are still able to gather again now and feeling mostly safer that most family members have been vaccinated and so on and so forth. So they're like, hey, with everybody getting back together again, maybe, are you guys looking at doing anything, board game wise? Do you guys do reviews of that? And I said, yeah, we do. Usually Birdman does reviews of these sorts of things, but I thought, what, this might be the first Easter that I'm going to get together with my family, and maybe I could do a trial run of some of these games with my brother and sister-in-law and get a feel for it and let you guys know, obviously ahead of time before Easter, if there were any titles that would be up your alley. They sent 3 games, a smaller one called Skull, one called Voices in My Head, and then one that is Bureau of Investigation, and it's like a Sherlock Holmes investigation game. All of them are in the ages 14 plus range. So there were other titles that they have a wide range of stuff, but for a lot of them are for smaller kids or people with young kids in their family. And I thought, okay, let's pick something that maybe is more in line with our age groups, 14 and up, even though most of us are way above 14, but stuff that anybody can still play. Skull was interesting. I ended up playing that with the family over dinner this past weekend, and here's the basic description of it. It says, will you be able to reveal the most flowers without ever revealing a deadly skull? Skull is a quick and intense bluffing game, and it's interesting. All these games that are here are different than your standard, family board game night stuff that you would have been used to had you been doing that 20-ish years ago or more. We're now the era of like boutique gaming, right? So it's interesting. It's very quick to pick up and play. It is like the game is pretty fast. I think we were able to get 2 or 3 games in within an hour. It says 15 to 30 minutes, but you do need 3 players at least to play. But it does handle up to 6, which is good. It has both English and French options to play here, which is good too. And it's one of those warm-up games, if you're not looking for something very, very long, but still something you can play. It's something small enough too. And the box is, about the size of a CD, but, obviously way thicker. So it's something you can just pop in your pocket or take in a backpack or something if you're going over to somebody's house and you just want to kill some time in between something. It's not like it requires a lot of dedication. Voices in My Head was the second game that we played. And that one is, it's a little longer, about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours max, depending on how long you take to do it. 3 to 6 players as well is needed to play this. And this is about a guy. Guy is on trial, His actions will determine if he gets free or goes to prison, and if he tells the truth or lies, it affects the outcome of the game. It's actually pretty good. Now, one player is the prosecutor, and the other players are different aspects of Guy's personality. It's very different. It's actually really cool. It's a little more up our alley in that it requires a little bit of role playing. So for those that like to act out, this is actually pretty fun. And especially you have a couple beers, have a couple drinks. And this is for ages 12 up, so maybe not the 12-year-olds drinking, but if you're our age, you're gathering with your friends, it's perfectly fine here. This was actually a fair bit of fun too. And then the final game here that requires a little more time to play, closer to the 2-hour mark to do a complete game, which is good if you're sitting down having pizza or something, is Bureau of Investigation, a Sherlock Holmes game. Now, this title is, you can play it. It says 1 to 8 players. It's more fun with more players. But it is something you could potentially solo, but it is definitely better when you have a few people like I did here. Now, what's interesting is it's 5 different Lovecraftian cases in the States during the 1920s. So think Sherlock Holmes investigations meets Cthulhu-esque sort of stuff. Pretty cool, actually. Now, it's a standalone game based on the popular Sherlock Holmes consulting detective games, which I had no experience with previously, so I was able to jump in just not even knowing that those even existed. And we had a lot of fun. This was probably our favorite of the bunch, but it is the one that probably requires the most time to play. So you've got a bit of variety here to check out. I'll put links in the description here. I recommend each of them for different reasons. I do think Skull is a great game to just pick up and play, and very quick to learn the rules, and you can play it while you're waiting for something, like waiting for the pizza guy to show up or waiting for the movie to start or something. And then the others are more like, hey, we're going to sit down and actually do a family game night. So it might be something fun to do at Easter or whenever your family gathers again.
Shurian! I must compliment you. I didn't think you could make it this far. However, this is it. Let's see how good you really are.
Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about something really special today. We got a review code from the publisher. We are talking about the House of the Dead remake coming to us from Forever Entertainment. This is available for the Nintendo Switch, retailing for about 25 bucks Canadian. And well, I love House of the Dead. I have played this across multiple console generations. I've played this in the arcade, wasting a lot of wasted money and quarters and tokens. All sorts of fun things on this game. So having it on the Nintendo Switch in a updated remake was certainly something I was really looking forward to. So how does it stack up? Well, good and bad, depending on how you want to look at it. So I was able to play this in 2 separate ways. I was able to play this in a Joy-Con gyroscopic aiming mode. I played that with my roommate's boyfriend, Sam, and I was also able to play this with a Nintendo Switch controller as well, using the Pro controller to control the on-screen action. And gyroscopic-wise, it works okay, but it doesn't exactly feel like your traditional light gun. And what do I mean by that? When you're shooting the monsters, you're constantly having to reload. Now, in the old game, you would just aim off screen. Here, you don't do that. You actually have to press a button. And on a Joy-Con, it takes a little bit of getting used to. If you're playing in single Joy-Con mode, when you're playing on the Switch controller, you also can reload, but there is an option in the menus that's buried that allows you to have an auto reload every so many couple of virtually microseconds. I just set it to 0.0. This way you're virtually having continuous fire, or you can adjust it to whatever you want. You can change like crosshair color, opacity, and whatnot. So, okay, neat, sure. So the game is the 4 chapters long. the storyline here, you're trying to basically rescue scientists from the evil Dr. Curian and his horde of monsters. It's a tale as old as time, as you might say, or, you know, the 90s. But still, it's the arcade game you remember, but it looks nicer. But that also being said, because this is running on Nintendo Switch hardware, it's not exactly going to look as good as your Xbox Series X game or a PlayStation 5 game. That's just the reality of the situation. However, though, it does look pretty good. But there are some performance hiccups. And on a Switch title, I was actually kind of surprised by how many there were. We would have slowdown in certain scenes when there were a lot of zombies on screen. Certain boss fights would slow down for a second, and loading screens would easily take over 30 seconds when you're transitioning the stage, when you're transitioning between menus and whatnot. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. Gameplay-wise, though, it is fairly fun, although I almost recommend this playing more with a controller than the gyroscopic aiming, but that's how you can play 2 players, though. And I kind of wish there was a true light gun peripheral for this. I think if any game cries out for a peripheral, it would be something like this. I really hope, because from what I've heard, this developer and publisher are working on the House of the Dead 2. And I just read today that this game is trending on certain sales charts. So hopefully that's enough to get the rest of the series, because I liked the games on the Wii, and those worked really, really well, with House of the Dead 4 Overkill being a particularly high note of the series. Plus, it was really vulgar and offensive. It was great. In terms of extras here, you do get the armory, which you unlock when you play through the game once and you rescue all the scientists. And then you have to go through the levels, I think, to find different chests. There's like a machine gun, there's like a crossbow, a grenade launcher, an assault rifle, something called a digger or something, or like a staker. I don't know. It's like a stake gun. But it doesn't go through multiple enemies, I think. I couldn't unlock it because I played, like I said, the 2 times I went through this game, I just couldn't get all the scientists. There are slight branching paths here and there, and you get extra stuff by doing that as well, so you can kind of figure things out there. There are adjustable levels of difficulty, which mostly affects how much damage you can take. The 2 modes here is the traditional story mode, and then there's horde mode, which basically just adds more zombies on screen. You can change the scoring, which when you need an extra continue, you spend your credits out of that to do that. I didn't have a chance to do that because I was able to make it through with the continues that I had. But the biggest problem I had with this particular title was the gyroscopic aiming was really unreliable. I wasn't exactly hitting pinpoint shots, and while I'm not expecting a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con to be a sniper rifle, it felt a little more inaccurate than I would have liked. And the only way I was really hitting on dead shots was with a Pro controller, but that's really just kind of swiping left and right like you would a computer mouse. So, I don't know. Can I recommend this at $25? I'm gonna say if you're a hardcore fan, sure. It's an entertaining time to be had, because you're basically playing a dollar a minute of entertainment. So this is like having the arcade experience at home on a really big screen. I'm playing this on a 60-inch TV, and it was a lot of fun. I will say that. However, for the more casual shooter fan, I might say wait for this to come down a few bucks in price. If it gets below 20 or definitely below that, yeah, I'd say this is worth picking up. And I really hope that Forever Entertainment continues to do the rest of these games. I would love to see more classic Sega games ported to the Switch. Like, I would love to see Virtual On would be fantastic. And the last time I think that was ported was to Xbox Live Arcade in like the early part of last decade. So hopefully we'll see more stuff in the future. But House of the Dead Remake, it's a solid attempt at porting an arcade classic. It does have some technical problems, but if you want to play as Agent Rogan and Agent G and go rescue Sophie and defeat Curian, well, then you probably can't go wrong with checking out this classic arcade shooter on modern hardware.
They're mindless walking corpses, and many of us will be too if you don't stay focused on the task at hand. Zombies, man. They creep me out.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
It's about that time of year where we decide to jump back into MLB. That's right, MLB The Show is out with a new iteration. We've covered them now since I started with the show, so 5 years. And each time we get a little bit better. As far as the iterative games that are out there, sports-wise, it tends to be the one that has the most love. Traditionally, until last year, had been exclusive to Sony platforms for 20 plus years. And last year, the big special was, hey, it was moving over and having a cross-platform release on Xbox. And we got to check that out, and it was a Game Pass title at that point there. Now, this year, the interesting part is, in addition to an Xbox version, which we received a review code. Review codes were provided by Sony Interactive Entertainment. They provided a code for the PlayStation 5 and a code for the Xbox Series X. I was able to check out both versions. Both play pretty much phenomenally. They're almost identical. For a major technical breakdown, we're not going to do that. That's the kind of thing you might see like Digital Foundry do if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty. But they're pretty much at parity, at least from my naked eye, on both platforms. It is a little weird still to me to go, hey, I received a reviewer code for a Sony title on the Xbox, which is again weird, but maybe not so much going forward, because this is also the first year where it's going to be available on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'll say this, I didn't receive a review copy for the Switch, but if you look at it, it does look a bit like a PS2 game. And that's just the limitations of the Switch itself. This is a game that requires a pretty beefy graphical engine, and it needs all the RAM it can get, all the graphical horsepower. But it's definitely not representative on the Switch of what the graphics are on the other systems. But here's where it gets interesting. This is also the first year that they've ever done this, where you can sign up for an account with them that is through what is the service called? The show.com. If you create an account with them, it's similar to what we've seen done with Square Enix or with more predominantly Ubisoft, where you sign in with their account and then it will upload your save to them, and then you'll have cross progression on any platform that you own the game on. So what does that mean? That means if I play on the PlayStation and I have signed into my account there, and then I go over to my friend's house and my friend has the copy on the Xbox, I can log into my profile and it will download my progression and my save and be able to play it on another platform entirely. This is, good for people that obviously have, it's cross-play, cross-progression, so you can play against each other on different platforms. You can save your games, go to your friend's house, like I said, or a family member. But the big one here is with that Switch. Yeah, you're getting a graphical downgrade. It's pretty significant from what I can see, but graphics obviously aren't everything. But you can then take your save game on the go. So you got a bit of a commute to work now that people are going back to work. You're going to visit family. You want to play some baseball. You can then pick up your Switch if you've got a Switch copy of the game, get your save from your main console, play there, and then when you go home, you want to play on your big screen TV with higher fidelity graphics. You log into your PlayStation or your Xbox, and bam, the save that's been updated on your Switch is now updated there. That's really cool. I don't think I've seen this before. I might be wrong on any other major sports title where they've had complete cross progression, cross save this way. Now, again, I might be wrong, but it's the first time I've personally seen this. Other new features is they've added online co-op, which is something that's not been done before here. There's new audio commentary. There's new legends added to the game. They've improved ever so slightly the hitting, pitching, and fielding. It's the same sort of iterative upgrades that they do each year. There are enhancements to their franchise modes, which I'm not usually. I'm a pick up and play player where I play random matches, or I might play maybe one franchise. I'm not somebody who does the full year play. That's just not my kind of game. I pick up and play with friends, or I'll play a few games here and there, and that's pretty much it. It is in every way the same game and the same quality that we've come to see, with iterative improvements, but they are tangible. They seem to have come into their own when it comes to the graphics on this current generation of systems, better than they were last time. It seems to perform just a little better frame rate wise. And then they've added just a whole ton of just quality of life upgrades, especially when it comes to crossplay and co-op and online play. Pretty happy with this. This is still pretty much the one yearly sports title that I play. And I'm pretty happy with this. I was worried that moving to multi-platform was going to take away some of the quality, maybe, that within the polish that went into the Sony platform for it. That's not the case here. They've just sort of been able to translate that over onto the Xbox. And while obviously looking at it at face value, the Switch version doesn't have the same graphics, it still has, from everything I've seen, the same quality of gameplay.
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
Alpha, Reader's Escape. Recruit a team of teenagers with attitudes.
It's Morphin' Time here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your Red Ranger, Mike the Birdman, and we are taking a look at the Renegade Game Studios version of Power Rangers, the role-playing game. This retails for about $55 US. We were sent a review copy to take a look at, but you know what? I liked it so much, I went out and bought it, so that should tell you where this review is going to go. So let's talk about this game. Okay, so Power Rangers, the role-playing game, primarily focuses on the Zordon era of Power Rangers. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, Power Rangers in Space, with slight mentions of other stuff, though nothing necessarily concrete, though they are planning on covering those in future installments. Okay, so this takes a similar system of D20 rolling. Kind of reminds me of D&D, but very distinct in its own system too. It has the Essence 20 system, and I like it. There's only 4 base attributes. You got strength, you got speed, smarts, and social. And then below that, you calculate values like evasion, how many hit points you have, and then you get skills underneath that. And what I really like here, it's this, how they do skills. It's a skill ladder. So let's say you have a strength-based skill called Brawn, and you really want to up that. Well, the first time you get a rank in it, you get a D2. So a coin, you flip a coin, you can add a +2. Then if you take another rank in it, D4, D6, D8, D10, and then the numbers start to go up. Not like, then you get like 2D8 and 3D6. And then you can do an auto success on rolls, and then you can apply critical effects. But obviously, what I do like about this is when you roll one of these dice. So let's say you roll your strength, which is supposed to be like your D20, then you add whatever modifiers to it. You would roll all the dice underneath that. So let's say you're rolling a D8. You roll a D8, a D6, a D4, and a D2. You take the highest number out of that, and then you add that to your skill total. Specializations further add to that, giving you more dice to roll, more chances to succeed. I really like that. I thought that's actually kind of clever. And you get most of the Power Ranger colors. You get red, black, blue, yellow, and red, but you also get white and green as well. So you're getting most of the Ranger spectrum there. Like, you're not getting silver or orange or purple, but those are expected to come later on down the line, presumably with like more campaign books and stuff like that. So I really like here, in each color, kind of gives you a specialized role on the team. Like the Black Rangers are the social glue that holds the team together, like they're morale boosters, whereas the Pink Ranger is more of a support class meant for long-range engagement. So essentially, you are the team's sniper, whereas the Red Ranger is the brawler, the blue is the brains, and the yellow is the fast strike that can move around the field really quickly. And then you can build out influences, which is your character an athlete? Are they smart? And then you can apply backgrounds, which give you more additional skills and stuff like that. But anything you take beyond the first influence, you have to take hang-ups. Hang-ups are like, you might really protect people. That's what you do. But you'll rescue the innocent people first, even if that means putting your teammates in danger. So you have to roleplay that. And I kind of like how they encourage you to play more flawed characters. Sure, you could be vanilla out of the box, but it makes it a little bit more interesting if you're willing to take that. So it's a risk-reward system. And I think for the most part, it works out pretty well. Combat in this, I think I'd have to run a few sessions to really kind of get the true hang of it. But I do like what I've seen so far. Plus, you do get all the Zordon era Megazords. You're getting like the Dragon Zord, the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord, Artillotron, which kind of surprised me. You're getting the Mega Voyager from In Space. You get the Battle Borgs from Alien Rangers, which really surprised me. So that's neat. I was really impressed with that. Like, they also give you rules for designing your own Zords. So you don't necessarily have to be stuck with, you know, the Thunder Megazord. You don't have to be stuck with, you know, the dinosaurs if you don't want. They tell you you can do this, that, and the other thing. They also give you rules when you want to create your own Rangers. Like if you want to have armor, like say the Tommy's Dragon Shield from the Green Ranger, they build that into the rules as well. Because it turns out your Morphin suit does have armor. There's like, they have rules for battleizers. So if you want to have stuff that you would see in the later seasons of the show, there are rules for that. They also tell you how to design your own power weapons, but they do give you stuff like the Zeo Blaster, the Turbo Guns, the Blade Blaster, Power Sword, Power Axe, Billy's Pike, stuff like that. So it does give you everything you've seen on the show. However, though, that being said, when it comes to an enemy, enemies in the back of the book, you really don't get a lot. Like, you don't get the Rangers themselves as pre-generated characters, and that kind of surprised me. I figured with the core rulebook, you would get, you know, the original 5, maybe, and Tommy in both forms as White and Green Ranger, but you don't. You also don't even get stats for, like, Lord Zed or Rita. I'm actually just looking at the book while we speak here on the show. I mean, you do get a monster bestiary, so to speak, but you get stuff like Finster, you get Chunky Chicken, you get the Putty Patrollers, you get Z Putties, Pineapple the Clown, but you're not getting King Sphinx, you're not getting Eye Guy, you're not getting Triclopsis, you're not getting Goldar, Squat, and Babu. So I'm imagining these are planned for a future supplement. So this is a fine start to the thing, but in terms of threats, you could probably design your own pretty easy, but I would have liked to have seen a book released alongside this, especially because it does feature the Zordon era stuff so heavily. You should have got stats for Lord Zed and Rita, but odds are you're not going to be fighting those right out of the box anyway. And one of the things I did find really peculiar about the leveling system in this is you don't get the ability to call a Zord until the 3rd level. I mean, that's strange, and I guess Zordon or Alpha could give you access to a Zord earlier, but you could suffer a complication. Not unlike D&D with rolling with advantage and disadvantage, you would have an edges or a snag, and works remarkably similar. You roll 2d20 and take the higher or the lower of those rolls. There are also Ranger perks and abilities that also level with you, and when you advance, or I guess you prestige into a White Ranger, you do trade in your old Ranger levels. So there's a lot of math here. I really hope Renegade Game Studios does take the ability to create an online character generator, because I know people like Modifius, for example, has one for Star Trek Adventures. So there are a lot of things here to like. Mechanically, it's a fairly easy system to learn, but there are a lot of moving parts. But the base mechanical systems do work. I really do like that. So I guess as some of my closing thoughts here, what do I hope to see from this system? I hope eventually we do see a proper bestiary, because I think the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ran for 65 episodes in its first season. I want to say it ran for well over 30. So I wish we had access to every monster. Like, the fact that they include Finster in the book is great, but like I said, where's Squat and Babu? Where's Goldar, Lord Zed, Rita? So I'm hoping we get stuff for King Mondo, Master Vile. And as you go forward through the seasons, hopefully we'll get access to those books as well. Like, I'm really looking forward to doing something with Power Rangers SPD and RPM, as those are two of my favorite seasons. But the fact that they give you rules for battleizers, I think is really neat too. So can I recommend Power Rangers the Role-Playing Game Core Rulebook from Renegade Game Studios? I'm going to say yes. If you've ever wanted to take on the role of a universal protector chosen by Eltaran Zordon to use the power of the morphing grid to save the universe, then yeah, this can be a lot of fun. Having 5 players for this would be ideal, but you could have your Game Master sub in your NPCs as you see fit. So I'm looking forward to seeing more from this line. I'm working on probably getting the other books in this. I even have the Game Master screen. The book is wonderful, got a lot of artwork from the Boom Studios artwork. I'm really impressed by it. So Power Rangers, the role-playing game coming to us from Renegade Game Studios, is more phenomenal. You should probably check this out.
Listen to me. It is your duty as a Power Ranger to save the universe. Now is the time.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Our friends over at ININ Games sent a review copy of Taito Milestones, which is a collection of 10 classics that some of which had been released at different points in time individually on the Switch for purchase. Just like little old arcade games, similar to like the Sega Classics kind of stuff. But this is a collection of 10 of them all together with a launcher, and it's also getting a physical release for those of you that are interested in the collecting of said classics and stuff that's probably not going to have a very huge print run. You'll be able to check that out as of April 15th in North America and Europe, and that physically. But the 10 games included are Kicks, Space Seeker, Alpine Ski, Frontline, Wild Western, Check and Pop, Elevator Action, The Fairyland Story, Haley's Comet, and the Ninja Warriors. Out of these bunch, I had previously heard of or played Kicks. I played Alpine Ski at one point years ago. I don't even remember where. I think it was an arcade somewhere. I don't remember. Maybe it was at my grandparents' cottage. Elevator Action, I played a bunch. And then the Ninja Warriors, especially more recently when that had a remastered edition that we checked out on the show here as well. So these are pretty good arcade ports. The emulation on them is quite good. I would say near pixel perfect, near accurate. Like I didn't encounter any slowdown or anything. I didn't encounter any glitches. The audio seems to sound the way it should sound. There's no input latency or delay. There's a bunch of standard options you can do, like adding scan lines and dip switch connection settings and stuff for each game, which is sort of what you come to expect now on a lot of these retro collections. But it's a well put together set. Some games are I would say hold up better than others, but they are an interesting look into Taito's library. Not a lot of these titles get major re-releases. Elevator Action tends to have a lot of love, and so does Ninja Warriors as being a cult classic, and kicks a little bit. But the rest of these are sort of a little more obscure, and I'm happy to see that Taito is bringing out more of these, and I hope they do more like this in the future. But that's pretty much it. It's a straightforward review. These are good, solid ports. And for those collectors out there, there is going to be a physical copy that you can purchase for your Switch. Doesn't take up a lot of space on your game card. Loads fast, no crashes. Just a solid arcade collection from Taito.
Those magnificent bastards. Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. Now, what do we have programmed? Well, Birdman and I, along with Aaron, are going to be recording a new Future Imperfect. We're finally getting back after all this bullshit. We're finally getting back to recording with Aaron. We should have some loose cannons coming in the next few weeks as well. But as far as Future Imperfect, we're doing our continuing our talks on picking our favorite episodes, not the best episodes, but our personal favorite episodes of each season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Starting with season 3, we're doing that, and if all goes according to plan, that'll probably be released this week. And then we're also going to be recording. We're going to try to do back-to-back recordings. We're going to do one where we pitch our own Star Trek show, because we've had middling experiences with the current new Trek shows that have been launching in the last few years, and sort of like pitch a general pitch of what we think, what kind of show we'd like to see. And so we'll see that in the next few weeks. We'll have that out as well. We will have new Earth versus Soup this coming Thursday. We may have another syndicated show coming out a little later. And then for Easter weekend, we'll have an episode of our Stargate on Saturday, an episode of Stargate Twig. We have 4 episodes of those already recorded. Birdman is editing the 2 of them right now. And those should be coming in on consecutive Saturdays now that we've banked a few, so that we can get back to recording. And we'll have another session or 2, and we should have, over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll have finishing off our season. And then we're going to be recording. We'll take a break for a couple weeks, and then we'll be recording a Power Rangers episode and maybe some others for one-offs as we get closer to the summertime, and we'll see where we go from there. And that's pretty much it. We've got some other shows and stuff in the works that I know Birdman's working on, but we're not taking a break for the holidays this weekend. We are going to do a show, and then it's back to regular, 3 or 4 shows a week, probably, depending on Birdman's schedule and mine and so forth. So that is it for this week. If you're gathering together with people for Easter, COVID's still out there. I know it's on the rise in certain areas. People we know have actually been affected with it this week, which is not fun. But stay safe. Distancing, I don't think is happening really anymore, but if you haven't got your shots, get your shots. If you haven't, if you're worried about how you're feeling, get one of those, tests that you can do, the rapid tests. They're given away for free at pretty much everywhere now. And, from there, just be happy with your family, enjoy time. And if you can't go anywhere, and you're doing it solo, just kick back, relax. It's not a big deal. Just have some fun and try to have a relaxing long weekend.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.